Sam Darnold for Baker Mayfield. That might be intriguing. We'll tell you why that actually might make sense here on the next episode of the Locked On Browns podcast.
You are Locked On Browns, your daily Cleveland Browns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends, your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound. LGB on the LOB, the Locked On Browns podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Hello, everybody. Monday. Hope everybody had a fantastic weekend. All you folks in Cleveland, I hope the AC units are working in the car, in the house. You guys going to be in the 90s to high 90s all week long. Make sure you hydrate, and, of course, make sure you're first listen every day. Locked On Browns, available on your favorite podcast app. And, of course, now on YouTube. Garrett and I have been pushing you guys all to get us to that 1K mark. Think about this present time, maybe 65 or so away. Again, can be more appreciative for everybody. For those of you who've made the switch on over, those of you just kind enough to go ahead and subscribe to the show here. Again, day and age, this is where we're at. Video content, huge in the business. Today's episode is brought to you by the fine folks over at Bet Online. Bet Online is the place that has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. Bet Online, where the game starts. Your host, Jeff Lloyd, at Jeff_LJ_Lloyd, your host from the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. And, of course, the Barbershop, Saturdays, 92.3 The Fan, and certainly other avenues over the summer on 92.3 The Fan. Garrett Bush, at GBush91. We're going to go a little bit here today on the Carolina Panthers. There's several avenues here for the Carolina Panthers and the Cleveland Browns. We are going to start off here. I know Terry Pluto over at Cleveland.com and Cleveland.com. Mary Kay Cabot going to join Garrett and the crew later over today on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, so make sure you check that out. But we've been talking about this, and we've been hinting about this. Look, if it comes down to a lengthy suspension for Deshaun Watson, obviously the team feels comfortable with Jacoby Brissett as their starting quarterback. Do you maybe want some competition for Jacoby? But the other thing is, are you sure you have a viable backup for Jacoby Brissett? Josh Dobbs to this point in his career, 10-17, not many yards throwing, 1 interception. Strict mop-up duty late in the season is when Josh Dobbs saw action. There is no way you can believe Josh Dobbs would be ready to quarterback a team that has legit playoff aspirations, a lengthy run in the playoff aspirations. So you could be in a situation where the Browns, end up having to possibly start their third quarterback. This is where Terry went with it. And there's been a ton of talks, and even Terry mentioned this. Anybody who believes that Baker Mayfield and the Carolina Panthers is a dead conversation, you're dead wrong. This has never changed. And we've gone into this, Garrett. Why hasn't it happened possibly to this point? Baker Mayfield going to Carolina, what was it going to do for OTAs and mandatory OTAs? Where you look at Sam Darnold, you look at the rookie Matt Corral and say, go ahead, guys, ball out, do the best you can. The guy over there on the sling, the guy who can't do anything right now, the new kid in town, he's a quarterback regardless. So whatever you do, it means nothing. But we're getting to the point here. Look, Matt Rule, head coach of the Carolina Panthers, is in a very difficult situation. Has not yet met expectations as the head coach of this franchise. He is playing basically for his own career in Carolina right now. Baker Mayfield automatically would come in and be the best quarterback on that roster. Otherwise, Carolina, guess what? Matt Rule is going to move on to something else, and Carolina will be one of these teams, hopefully competing for one of the top draft selections in the 2023 NFL draft to nab C.J. Stroud, whether it's Bryce Hall out of Alabama. That's where the Panthers are. It's either now or it's, guess what? We're pulling the plug, and yet again, we are rebuilding. Sam Darnold, it's been difficult for him. The Jets, they never got it right in his time there. His 1 year in Carolina, it started off good. Then it went downhill quickly. Last year in Carolina, under 60% completion percentage, 24 interceptions to only 18 touchdowns. That is not good by any means whatsoever. But you bring Sam Darnold in here. He's got the experience. He's certainly got the playing time. And if it were to come how here and the money kind of cancels each other out, nobody's going to pay $39 million to have Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold on the roster. Nobody is writing that check. So you bring Sam in here, and if it were a situation, Garrett, where you had to go to Sam Darnold, he could possibly beat out Jacoby Brissett if they had to have a 1-versus-1 to quarterback this team. Also, you brought Sam Darnold in here. He is now playing for a team that is vastly more talented and a better team than he has ever been a part of to this point in his career.
The Sam Darnold thing is gaining steam. And if you really look at it from a perspective of what can we do in order to get creative to go ahead and get Baker Mayfield onto his next destination. I know it's not all about, figuring out what Baker does best and where Baker's going to go, but if you want to get him off the books, if you want to continue to keep, this thing moving and just go ahead and flip the page, it makes sense. It's almost like a basketball trade to me. Sometimes in basketball, you see these trades and you're like, wow, Kristaps Porzingis for Spencer Dinwiddie. I don't know. Like, I guess that's a wash. In this case, this looks like a basketball trade because Sam Darnold for Baker Mayfield it has all the storylines of two guys who got drafted very high in the draft, two guys that did not work out in their position. But I will say this: Baker Mayfield definitely has had the better career. As a matter of fact, Sam Darnold would be juiced, pumped, excited, ecstatic if he had the type of career Baker Mayfield has had to this point. So if you're the Browns and you're the Carolina Panthers, you say, look, we trade you, Baker Mayfield. You give us back Sam Darnold. Money cancels out each other. And then you give me like a 5th-round pick. Give me a 5th or a 6th maybe, and we call it a day. And what you do there is one of the things that happens is now all of a sudden you got a more of experienced backup in Cleveland in case Deshaun Watson has a lengthy suspension. You have Jacoby Brissett in there, and now if Jacoby Brissett goes down, you're not forced to go all the way down on the pecking order to get to Josh Dobbs. So now you got a guy that can play. You got a guy that has a little bit of experience. Not saying that he's some sort of world beater. He's not going to come in and throw the ball, but pretty much on this offense, you're going to be handing the ball off a lot. You're going to be back to that play action game. And it's the same type of game they're going to run with Jacoby Brissett anyway, right? You can lean on the running game, lean on defense to try to get you through. And for the Carolina Panthers, it makes a lot more sense, right? You talked about it. You documented this. Nowadays, as coaches, you don't have all day to get it done. You got 2-3 years. They looking to move on after that. That 3 to 5 year plan that everybody used to talk about earlier in the 90s and 2000s, you ain't about to get all that time to just go ahead and he wants to get his guys and his quarterback and his. You better read. My coach used to always say, "Hey, you better read on the run, son." You ain't got no time to be out here diagnosing everything. That play happens just like that. So if you want a quarterback that can get you to the next level, you want a quarterback that can win you a few games, I'm taking Baker Mayfield over a rookie quarterback and over Sam Darnold. And guess what? You pretty much swapped out Sam Darnold with the same amount of money. So you were already on the hook for Sam Darnold's money or whatever the case may be. Now gives yourself an opportunity to where you can see if you got something in the guy, and if you win enough games, it may buy you some time to get to next year to find your regular quarterback or your quarterback of the future.
So the thing for Matt Rule is there's been no sign of competing in the NFC South. And when Tom Brady originally retired, you thought that maybe it was going to be a wide open division. Tom Brady is back, which means the Buccaneers are back, which means everybody in the NFC South, maybe the Saints can contend, Falcons, Panthers, minimum a year away, if not more. But if you're Matt Rule, you are going to either bank on Sam Darnold, who, like I just mentioned, 24 interceptions last year, 18 touchdowns. Matt Corral, who you drafted in the 3rd round. I'm not comfortable with betting my life on that. Or do you go with an aggravated, agitated, pissed off Baker Mayfield, who in 2020 led his team to a playoff victory. In 2018, took a team that was 0-16 to 7-8-1. So right now, Matt Rule and Baker Mayfield, it kind of looks like they're the same dude. They are literally trying to save their NFL lives right now. So if I'm Matt Rule, I'm going to gamble on the guy. Look, the money, it's a wash. Would the Browns like to come out of this on the positive money-wise? They would. But are you getting to a point where, look, we all got hopes and dreams. I'd love, to make some money on something, but sometimes you got to understand a loss is a loss. So if there's a way you can work this out and it ends up being a wash, and look, for the 5 millionth time, Baker Mayfield is in zero way in the Browns' plans for 2020. It is not happening in any way whatsoever. He doesn't want them. They showed that they don't want him. That's it. It is a broken, fractured relationship. It is done. There is no healing it. There is no fixing it. There is no way it is going to happen. But you bring in Sam, who has the experience. You look at Jacoby Brissett, his last 20 starts in the NFL. 9-11, not terrible, but also has not played with a team as talented and as well constructed as this Browns roster looks to be in 2022. 23 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. Those numbers, those are workable. Those are workable with a good roster. And keeping in mind, he completed over 61% of his passes. It's safe. It's not sexy by any means whatsoever. But I don't think the Browns truly need that. They feel they want it, and obviously that was why they brought in a player like Deshaun Watson, where they can get optimal quarterback play. But they're in a situation where they may not have him right away. We don't know. Long, whole season. Who the hell knows at this point? But you could bring in a guy like Sam Darnold, who's going to be in a similar situation with Jacoby Brissett. He would come in. He's playing with a team that is better than he's ever played with before. You're going to put him in a position where he's not asked to win games. He's asked to make some plays to keep the line moving for his team to come victorious on game days. For me, I'm okay with this move. If there's a way to make it out, you're not going to leave Sam Darnold down in Carolina where Baker's going to be the starter. Obviously, they're looking to see what Matt Corral is before whatever 2023 may bring for that franchise, which could be brand new all around. This is something, if there's a way to get this done and come after Friday when mandatory OTAs are over for the Browns, everybody goes and retreats for 5 weeks, something would happen there. But this is something on paper makes a lot of sense for this franchise, Garrett.
It does. For me, I think this might be the only thing and one of the only deals that I've heard of that gets you to a point where you can say that's plausible. I know the Browns want to get something for him, even if it's a 6 or 7. I mean, at this point, to me, that's negligible. I could care less about those picks out of there. I think what it does, it gives you an opportunity for everybody to just say, look, that's over. It's not happening. And we don't got to keep going over and over again. These national dudes, I don't understand why they don't get it, man. Why don't y'all get it, bro? Y'all keep saying, well, if it makes sense that Baker could come back and, doesn't he give you the bet? Do you think that if that happens, Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski both are screaming, hey, I'm trying to get fired? Because that's what eventually is going to happen if you bring back Baker Mayfield into the locker room, because quiet is kept. No one in the locker room is trying to hear that. They're not trying to see that, hear that, do whatever the case may be. Get rid of it, stop it, move on.
When Deshaun Watson was originally brought in, you knew there was a possibility of a suspension. You don't bring 3 quarterbacks in one off season and then find a way to basically, apologize and make nice with the quarterback you had. It's just not feasible, folks. It's not. But with Sam Darnold, you get yourself in a situation, and a lot of people, if you get down to quarterback 3, it's over. The Browns don't want to be in that position. Yes, dream scenarios, we get a pick back, we save money, this, that, and the other thing. But the Browns, it's not so much about picks for the future right now. It's about trying to salvage what should be a pretty strong 2022 season for this team. And if you go into it knowing that Watson's going to miss time, but you got Jacoby Brissett, Sam Darnold, both quarterbacks, both veteran quarterbacks, both able to contribute, that is something this team highly, highly has to think about. Enough of the dreams. It's starting time to think about the reality. We are going to dig further into the Carolina Panthers here. Look at the roster here a little bit, as this is the Browns' Week 1 opponent. Segment 3, we'll get to talk about what it would take to, obviously go into Carolina, walk out with a Week 1 victory for the first time in 2 decades for the Browns to hopefully start the season 1-0. All that coming back and more. Your host, Garrett Bush, your host, Jeff Lloyd, your latest Locked On Browns. At BlueNile.com, you can celebrate all of life's special moments, from creating the custom engagement ring of her dreams to gifting a classic and timeless jewelry piece, all at prices you won't find at a traditional jeweler. Whether you're ready to pop the question or you're celebrating a milestone moment, find jewelry as unique as her with the modern convenience of online shopping at BlueNile.com. Build the engagement ring of her dreams, or again, celebrate life's special moments with a fine piece of jewelry, bracelet, necklace, so be as it may. No matter what you're looking for, Blue Nile has jewelry experts on hand 24/7. Make your moment sparkle with jewelry from BlueNile.com. And Locked On Browns listeners get $50 off purchases of $500 or more. This podcast exclusive includes engagement rings. Use promo code Locked On, all caps, no space. Again, Locked On. Plus, every order is insured, it ships free, and it arrives in a discreet package that won't give away what's inside. Shop stress-free and find your ever piece. Go to BlueNile.com today.
Locked On Browns podcast is back in the building. G Bush at G Bush 91, Jeff Lloyd at Jeff_LJ_Lloyd. Hey, Jeff is now a regular now. I done had Jeff on 92.3 The Fan multiple weeks. He's in there dealing. He's coming off the top of the head, just dealing, hitting people with all upside the head with the Browns material, Browns facts, man. And so I want to appreciate him coming on, man. Make sure you go follow him out here. I mean, he's been doing it a long time, man. And we're gonna make this thing big, man. Locked On Browns podcast. We're gonna make this the best Locked On. No disrespect to all the other NFL teams, but when the season come around, we about to show the people the Browns fan base, the Browns media, and the Browns attention is big time around here, especially when it comes to the NFL and our Browns. We got passion. So continue to help us make Locked On Browns podcast the best Locked On podcast. Also continue to help us with our YouTube numbers. As Jeff so eloquently put, we almost at 1,000, man. I want to appreciate everybody. In the next couple of days, even after this one, we might be able to push this thing above 1K. Thank you so much. But continue, if you don't do the video and you can't watch video at work, continue to go ahead and support that on our podcast, on our audio formats, whether that be wherever you get your podcast, whether that's Stitcher, whether that's Apple, whether that's Spotify, wherever you get it, make sure you continue to do that and continue to support Locked On Browns podcast. Now, we looked at this game from a perspective of the Carolina Panthers. Let's kind of, transition that forward. The Carolina Panthers are going to be the first team that we're going to play on the schedule. This game is going to be on the road in Carolina. And this is a game to me, whether you got Deshaun Watson, whether you got Jacoby Brissett, whether you might even have Sam Darnold, if we got some trade action going, this is a game that should be winnable for the Cleveland Browns. This is a game that you come out and the defense and comes out and is aggressive. The defense and JOK and Clowney and that speed and Delpit and Denzel Ward, Myles Garrett, of course, they come out and you should be getting 3 and outs. You should be out here getting those guys on the other side of the football, because whoever they put out there for the Carolina Panthers should not be able to move the ball up and down or the field on this Cleveland Browns defense. And that's why it's very imperative that the Cleveland Browns defense start hot and continually move on throughout the rest of the season. And of course, in that game, if we do see a Jacoby Brissett or a second team or a backup quarterback, we know what the game plan is. It's pretty much the same game plan we ran with Baker. We're going to continue to run this football. We're going to run play action. We're going to keep the chains moving, and we're going to try to bloody their noses up front with two of the best backs in Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb in the game. I think this is a very winnable game, and I think the Browns should win this game in the first game of the season. Your thoughts, Jeff?
Whoever's the quarterback week 1, the Browns should be favored to win this game. If it were Deshaun Watson, if it were Jacoby Brissett, heck, if it were even, Sam Darnold, the Browns would be favored to win this game in Carolina. You look at this team, Christian McCaffrey has been a key to what this team can do offensively the last few years. Getting to the point now where Christian McCaffrey is getting dinged up. This is what happens when you try to use running backs for 400 touches a year. If he's the most integral part of your team, you do that. Guess what happens when you do not have said player? All of a sudden your offense just, basically the emergency brake is pulled on what your offense can do because he has been such a factor. Whoever would be the quarterback of this team for this game, Sam Darnold, Matt Corral, possibly a Baker Mayfield. What you're going to look at is, you left tackle, Panthers first pick this year in the draft. Everybody loves him. Ike Ekwonu. Okay, well, your first NFL start. Hello, here's Myles Garrett. That's definitely a reality type of moment. The rest of the offensive line, Pat Eflin, not a bad player. Old friend Austin Corbett starting at right guard. Taylor Moton, the right tackle. Taylor Moton, Jadeveon Clowney. That's a matchup that probably is not in the Panthers' favor either. You look at the wide receiver room, DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson. They have Terrence Marshall Jr. at LSU. Of course, old friend Rashard Higgins. We'll see where he would fit into that equation. All of these names, none of them are scaring you to death if you think the Browns secondary is going to be able to play with the capabilities that they have. You look at the defense. Pass rusher, Brian Burns, solid player. A little bit undersized as a pass rusher. But you look at Jedrick Wills. This will be a week 1 matchup right out of the gate for Jedrick Wills. Getting a quality athletic pass rusher. And, we all assume, obviously, Jedrick is in the best of health, will be in the best of health going into this. And we're going to start to see the progression, hopefully, to see where Jedrick Wills will be the future at the left tackle position for the Browns. That could change. We'll see how it goes. Derek Brown on the interior, not a bad player. But again, we're talking about Joel Bitonio. We are also talking about Austin Cooper. Also talking about Wyatt Taylor. This is matchups where there's never really a week where we say, other than maybe Casey Hayward, we're really worried about the interior of the offensive line. It's just not the case the way it's constructed. Shaq Thompson at linebacker and Corey Little. This makes for a nice matchup against the running backs. These guys are both athletic. They both move very well. But Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, just solid running backs, and some of the part of one of the top running back stables in the entire game. Secondary is pretty good. It is. You look at whether it's Dante Jackson, Xavier Woods, Jeremy Chin, and of course J.C. Horn, who missed most of last year, for the Panthers in his rookie year, solid players. But the way this Browns team is constructed, this looks to be a game where they are better all across the board on paper. And look, that doesn't always mean anything. But when you get yourself to be a team that should be respected week in, week out, these are games that you just don't go in there and, basically show up with a flat tire. You show up, you go in there and you go motivated. And this team, by the time we get to there, we will know where the Deshaun Watson situation is at. This team will know what they are facing, and it will be a rallying. Everyone knows if Deshaun Watson is not going to be the quarterback, there's going to be a little bit more required of everyone. Everyone's got to step it up. In a situation like this, going into week 1, and old friend Zane Gonzalez, at kicker. So obviously there'll be some familiar faces down in Carolina. And I think everybody understands the importance of getting off 1-0 with everything that's going to be going on. Of course, with, probably most likely missing Deshaun Watson, everybody's going to understand that easy, winnable games where you were favored, even if it's on the road and it's not like Carolina is this difficult atmosphere. These are games you just got to go in and win. And look, I don't need pretty. I don't need 40-10. I need a team that comes in and plays complete. A defense that says, you're not worthy of us. We are going to control this game. And an offense that will capitalize on obviously favorable situations that the defense should put them in.
You know what, Jeff? I'm going to tell you what. Coming up here in this next segment, I'm going to let you exactly know why Kevin Stefanski is going to be the key to this game. Stefanski and what he does is the key to the Cleveland Browns winning this game on the road week 1, and I'll tell you exactly why when we come back.
We're going to get into this a little bit more here. Obviously, the offseason. We're going to start going, maybe not every episode, but this will be something that'll help us, cover this time between the end of this week, obviously, to late July, when we have more day-to-day Browns action to talk about. Browns with 14 opponents on the schedule this year. Obviously, 3 teams playing twice. So get more into the, X's and O's, and as far as the chess matches of what it's going to take to compete against some of these teams who might be better than the Browns, also to what's going to need to put some of these lesser teams like the Carolina Panthers in the checkmate position. We're going to continue here. Locked On Browns, your host, Jeff Lloyd, Garrett Bush. Appreciate everybody who makes Locked On Browns their first listen. And we'll be back here. And as Garrett said, Coach Stefanski, it's going to need to be a rebound effort. BetOnline.net is your number one source for all your betting stats and sports info. Find all the latest sports developments, news, and odds, including the NBA Finals Game 5 coming, the NHL Stanley Cup, Major League Baseball, and, of course, all the latest fighting news from MMA and UFC to boxing. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sporting wagering information, including live betting, esports, and more. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and actions. Bet online, where the game starts.
Locked On Brown podcast, back at it again. Before we went to break, we talked about it, and I said, listen, This is the reason why Kevin Stefanski is going to be so pivotal in these first 4 games, and specifically drilling down on the Carolina Panthers. There are 3 to 4 plays each game where a head coach can have his direct impact on the game, whether it be his first 15 scripted plays, whether it be coming out after halftime and making adjustments to what the team has done in the first half. Challenge flags, right? When do I want to throw a challenge? When do I not want to throw a challenge? Also, figuring out what we're gonna do when it comes to, hey, are we gonna use a timeout here? We're gonna save a timeout. Whether and then another way is whether we're gonna be aggressive and go for it on 4th down. We're gonna go for the field goal, or we're gonna keep our offense on the field and continue to get these teams down. So for Coach Stefanski in these first 4 games, if you look at the rosters, the Browns by far have the better, superior roster. They may not have the greatest of quarterbacks, right? At that point, and they may be playing with Jacoby Brissett, but that doesn't change the expectation level of this team. The expectation level and the standards are that you make it to the playoffs. And to do that, Kevin Stefanski has to give his team and Deshaun Watson the opportunity to come back and put yourself in a position to be able to make the playoffs. You don't want to go out there and you're 4-4 in the first 8. And then Deshaun Watson comes in, and now he has to rattle off 8 wins, and he ain't played in a year and a half, or whatever the case may be. You don't want that. You want Deshaun Watson to come out and say, "All right, big fella, we 6-2. Here you go. We 5-3. Here you go. Keep us afloat. We kept you afloat. We gave you a lifeline. Now you be the superstar that you are. You be the $230 million guy that you are, and continue. And you figure it out and read and react on the run. Once again, we talk about reading on the run. You don't got Deshaun Watson don't got 7 games, 8 games to get back into motion and get back. No, he needs about 3 games, and he's going to have to get it on the run. Some of the games may not look cool. Some of the games might not look perfect, but we need to get those wins while you're knocking the rust off. And one of the things that Coach Stefanski can do is by his play calling, by his defense, by what he calls, is able to make sure that you can beat teams that aren't better than you. You got to beat the teams. And that means not going for field goals. That means punching it in the red zone. That means being aggressive. And that means putting your foot on their neck early, so you don't got games that go into the 4th quarter where Jacoby Brissett has to make big time throws.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, when you're in games of this magnitude, you were the better team. Basically, you dictate how the game is going to go. What I look at with the Panthers, you look at Robbie Anderson at the wide receiver position, vertical guy. That's all he really is. DJ Moore is maybe create, a little bit of an issue. I mean, guy, a lot of underneath routes, and then, can create with the ball in his hands. But if it were to be maybe Baker Mayfield at quarterback, that was one of the biggest things that Baker Mayfield struggled with last year, was taking the easy throws and letting playmakers make plays. Will Baker just be able to jump back in if he were starting this quarterback for the Panthers, starting this game at quarterback for the Panthers, if the move were possibly made, and be able to make those plays? Christian McCaffrey, you figure he's going to be healthy, week 1. Yes, he is a pain. But one of the biggest aspects of Christian McCaffrey and why he's such a solid player is the receiving aspect of his game. Well, we've got Anthony Walker. We've got Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. That is one of the reasons they value JOK the way he was. Not even to mention the Grant Elpits of the world and the John Johnsons of the world, who were brought to Cleveland to say, we know you are a safety, but we can do many things with you. We feel you can be successful in a variety of ways. The pass rush should be able to get home. You're talking about a 2nd or 3rd year left tackle at right tackle going up against Jadeveon Clowney. A rookie in his first start. I don't care if he is the greatest rookie left tackle in the history of the world. It is a whole new world to line up and say, oh, man, well, I looked great last year in the ACC,
Right.
Man, that's Myles Garrett. He just did a 60-inch vertical box jump. I saw it on Instagram. Hell, I even liked it on Instagram. And wait a minute, I got to block him? Wait a minute, this is my assignment? Coach, are we sure about this? I mean, I know you got all the faith in the world, man. You guys probably just gave me $30-something million guaranteed. But that's Myles Garrett. And like, oh my Lord. So you got to get over like the sticker shock, first of all, of saying that is Myles Garrett. And it's your responsibility to take care of him. You look at tight ends. They've always given the Browns an issue. Tommy Tremble, more of an H-back. Ian Thomas is a nice athletic player that's never met expectations for the Carolina Panthers. Offensively, I can't see Carolina slowing down the run game. So even if it is, and most likely, somebody other than Deshaun Watson, I don't see a way they are slowing down Nick Chubb. I don't see the way they are slowing down Kareem Hunt. Brian Burns on the edge is a nice player. If I'm pulling Wyatt Teller at 325 pounds, and keep in mind, Wyatt Teller is 325 pounds of nothing but pissed off attitude and muscle against the defensive end and Brian Burns, who struggles to maintain weight, where he may be giving up 70 pounds to Wyatt Teller. Brian Burns is a fantastic pass rusher. Wyatt Teller is going to take him not only to the bench, he's most likely going to take him to the first or the second row, creating a hole wide enough, Garrett, that we could drive a Mack truck through. This is the way this game would work. You go into a game like this, you play an inferior team that cannot match up with you talent-wise, cannot match up with you, on the interior or the defensive, side of the ball on the lines. This is an issue for the Panthers on both sides of the ball. And for Coach Stefanski, this would be a KISS game. KISS, keep it simple, stupid. Your defense, you think of Joe Woods, they are ready to go. Not like last year. All these guys are here, and we've heard guys talk about it. John Johnson definitely emphasized it. It's great because I kind of know what all my guys are going to do. We've been battling long enough now. It wasn't like last year where it was like, well, we don't even know what we have in Grant. Nobody's ever seen Grant play for the Browns yet. And, okay, well, I don't know about the second or the third quarterback. That kid over there, Newsom, he looks good, but he's a rookie at any time, man. He can be a mental lapse. Those things will not happen. Those things should not happen now. And Joe Woods just says, boys, go get it done. You all know what to do. Everybody knows how I want to maneuver everybody around. Anybody gets tired, anybody needs a blow, we've got confidence in our third, fourth, fifth defensive end. We got confidence in our third, fourth, fifth cornerback. We got confidence in our third safety, our fourth, fifth linebacker. We're going to be all right. Just give me all you got, 100%. Every snap that you take, don't be afraid to tap out, because I got guys ready to go in and jump in and give quality reps as well. This is a game where you just go in and understand that this team is weak. And for the Panthers, look, there could be a situation Panthers go 0-6, 1-7. Matt Rule may not even see the end of this season, because the Panthers might just say, all right, let's just scrap it all now. And at this point, you hate to say the word tank, but they could be in a position where, look, Baker Mayfield, maybe even if it happens, he's here for this year, no contract going further. We could be in a position where we hold pick 1, pick 2, or we're in the top 5 in what will be a much better quarterback draft. And that's the way the Carolina. So the Browns could literally start the end of the 2022 season for the Carolina Panthers in week 1, Garrett.
Yeah, that could be. That's what we're hoping for. Like you said, they are between a rock and a hard place. Matt Rule has to get it done, has to get some wins under his belt. And for me, I just don't see a way unless the Cleveland Browns epically come out here and just take a what in the bed. Guess what? I think this is a game the Browns will get, and the Browns have to have, and I think they'll do that.
So we have gotten to hear the possible talk of a Sam Darnold Baker Mayfield trade, how that would work. I got to be honest. I think Cleveland-wise, I think you've held that long enough, hoping for a more advantageous situation for your team. I think now it's time to take a reality check and say, we don't want to take any hits. Even without Deshaun Watson, this could be a very promising 2022 season for the Browns, and you certainly have to look deeply into addressing that. Talking here about the Carolina Panthers, the Browns' week 1 opponent, the way the roster is constructed, what it will take to beat this team and walk away from week 1 for the first time in a long time on the positive side, 1-0, going ahead to look into week 2. So we just had some fun here. Again, this is something we can work in here as we start to hit this little bit of dead period for 5 weeks until training camp opens. Browns mandatory OTAs this week. We'll have a ton of coverage on that. We'll talk a lot about this week, as the Browns are going to kind of bebop around Ohio here this week before sending everybody off for the summer session, before fall classes basically commence in July in Berea. He is Garrett Bush, part of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. They're ready for another major week over there. You can always catch Garrett Saturday mornings at the barbershop. 92.3 The Fan does a fantastic job over there. With summer coming, some open spots. I'm sure Garrett will be jumping in more over there as well. Make sure you're following Garrett at GBush 91. Myself, Jeff Lloyd, at Jeff_LJ_Lloyd. The show at Locked On Browns. Follow back account. DMs are always open. Like we said, we got that push going here. I believe now it's about 65 away from 1K. So keep hitting that subscribe button for us. We're doing all we can here to provide you guys with the best Cleveland Browns content day in, day out that we can. Appreciate you all in that respect. With all that, everybody have a great week. Like I said, hydrate. Make sure those ACs are working. Make sure you got your sunscreen. Going to be a hot one in Cleveland here. It is full on summer. And with all of that said, this has been your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound. LGB on the LOB. Let's go Browns.